It's not the dad podcast.
Welcome to the Let's Go Racing Family podcast, sharing our love for NASCAR, running, and just racing through life.
Hosted by Sebastian, Giovanni, Karen, Tony, and me, Johan.
Each week we'll talk about our view of the world through the lens of racing.
Welcome back, Let's Go Racing family, to another episode. This week we're going to be talking about the longest NASCAR track and the longest NASCAR race, which was the Echopark Grand Prix and the Coca Cola 600. Two actually really exciting races with some interesting winners. So why don't we go ahead and start off with the Echopark race?
This is one where we had how to say the race in one word: chaos, havoc, destruction.
That's three words.
Okay, so
Well, you choose one of them.
why was it chaos and havoc and destruction?
Well, because you have like chaos, like everybody's spinning, and then the destruction part is like Cole Custer and Martin Truex Jr. wreck. Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace are out of the race. Kevin Harvick gets like lifted into the air. Truex also does. It was crazy.
Why? You told
The
us
wrecks.
what happened. Yes, but why were there so many wrecks?
The rain.
There you go. It was the rain.
This track is pretty big. It's 3.6 miles, and you have to drive all of that in 20 turns. And this is a track usually driven by the F1 cars.
And and how old is this track?
So the track actually opened on October 21st, 2012.
Well, actually, that was the year I was born in, 2012. So I'm actually a bit older than a racetrack.
Yeah, you're about to turn 9. The track will turn 9 later this year. So, and it was designed for F1, which makes it, it's a fantastic facility from what we saw. There were a lot of, like you said, Sebastian, a lot of turns. And then also, what was the other interesting thing when you looked at the track?
There was a very, very long backstretch, and it also was not flat. There were a lot of hills.
There was an
uplifts.
incline, so like the cars go up when they're going into turn 1, which is really neat because NASCAR's always like going around in circles, and they have banking, but they're not actually going up the banking. Oh, and fun fact, because we were saying that the track was made for F1, Mario Andretti won the very first F1 race at COTA.
So as Johan said, there was a lot of like big stuff that was happening, and that was because it started raining. And it caused these cars to basically struggle throughout the race. In fact, literally the first few laps. Mom, you want to tell them what happened?
Well, so normally in NASCAR races, we do not see any racing in rain because they drive in slicks. But because of the race course, this was a race course, they actually had rain tires. And we had talked about the rain tires in another podcast or episode. We had talked about the difference. It's got those grooves similar to what our tires on regular cars have. And so they were able to run in the rain. And so when the race started, it really wasn't raining. We knew that there was going to be rain because it was forecasted. And so some of the cars were prepared with rain tires, and then actually, didn't they all have rain tires? And then within the first lap, they went in to get slicks because it wasn't raining yet.
Well, actually, it was they had wet tires. Then they came in. Some of them came in for slicks, but then some of them stayed out because they knew, it's gonna get worse. So why don't we stay with these wet tires?
Yeah. So some of those that made the switch because with slick tires you can advance quicker on dry asphalt. And then there were those that stayed with the rain tires, because they knew that they were going to have to be switching soon.
And the thing with the rain tires is if it's not wet, it actually will slow the car down. and you'll actually burn through those tires even more because you'll burn through those grooves. Because some of the cars, when they took off the rain tires, they had been driving in dry conditions on that track, the asphalt, and it actually looked kind of like a slick tire.
Yeah, they wore through.
So you really needed to make sure you made the right decision. If it was going to rain, you wanted to be in the rain tires. If it was going to be dry track, you wanted to be in slicks. And depending, and again, there were some drivers that decided to stay out with slicks and some that stayed out with the rain. And they definitely had an advantage when it wasn't raining on the slick tires versus the rain tires and all that. So it definitely showed up very early in the race.
Well, early in the race, it was not raining that much. So Austin Cindric, a guy who's not racing full-time, but he's racing for Penske part-time, and he was on slick tires, leading the race. He was not racing. He was just going for a Sunday drive.
Yeah, he was literally pulling away from everyone else in slicks, and it was amazing. Even the announcers were talking about it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see him like just taking off and actually doing well and much better than all of these drivers who were much more experienced than him and they had like wet tires, and like for some reason Cindric just was doing so much better.
Well, honestly, how crazy this race was. This is how a summary of it. Montreal 2009.
Well, you got to give context. Not everybody's going to know what you're talking about.
So Montreal 2009 was basically a nationwide race, but it was in Montreal. And it was raining. Everybody was wrecking. It was a disaster. And then the biggest mess up of all was the wheel hop. And Carl Edwards ended up winning.
Well, the other thing, too, to describe the race for those that didn't watch it was imagine you're driving down a highway, and what ends up happening when there's water on the ground, the tires kind of create like this wake, essentially, of the water. And what were they calling it what were the announcers calling it? The back of the cars when they were going fast and the rain was kind of shooting up.
I think was it a trail?
Rooster tails.
Rooster tails, that's what it was.
And because it looks like the rooster tail as they were flying down. But the problem with this track and with all of the elevation changes, and it just was a lot of water that was dumped on the track, you could not see. These are big cars, and they were creating these wakes of splash, and it was hard to see. Around
the end of stage 1, when they had to do a restart because of a wreck, they actually said when Joey Logano was leading, coming into the first turn, even the announcers said that unless you're Joey Logano, you couldn't see anything because you were just going to get blinded by the rooster tails.
Because he was in the front, and yeah, he didn't have anybody creating a wake in front of him.
Yeah, and that like continues to one of the big crashes of the day, which took out 4 drivers: Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick, Bubba Wallace, and Christopher Bell. But the thing is, it was so rainy and it was hard to see that we didn't even know what exactly happened. They had to use reconstructions, digital reconstructions, for us to understand what happened. Because at one moment, we're just watching the leader. Then at the next moment, we've got all these cars wrecked. And we're like, wait, how do we get from point A to point B? How?
Yeah.
So this is basically what happened. So Ryan Blaney got slammed in the back by Christopher Bell. That spun him. Bell was done. And then Harvick was trying to slow down. And Bubba didn't see him and slammed in the back of him. And as I said, Christopher Bell was in that wreck and was done.
And why was that sad for you?
He was my pick.
He was your pick, yes. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, and if you thought that was crazy, wait till you hear about the next big wreck, which involved Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Custer. So Martin Truex Jr. was going down the track, and he got damaged, right? And as everyone else was slowing down, for some reason, Cole Custer was speeding across the track and then rammed right into the back of Martin Truex Jr., nearly flipping the 19 car.
Yeah, he said he was rolling down. He was rolling down the track, and all of a sudden he ended up right behind Martin Truex, like literally underneath him, and like lifted him up.
Well, part of it, though, he was being a little reckless.
Well, that's why I'm saying he said he was rolling. He was rolling down the track. But if you see the the footage on there, most of the drivers were somewhat slowing down because, again, like we were saying, it was really hard to see. It was like torrential downpour and you couldn't see. So as spectators, we couldn't see much of the track. So just imagine the drivers with all the water in front of them. And then you see Cole Custer, you see the 41 just zooming by. I don't know where he thought he was going, or because he didn't see anybody, he thought the coast was clear, but he was definitely.
I think he was just trying to take advantage. I mean, he's a competitor, wanted to take advantage of the situation, but
and ended up
you
underneath
gotta
Martin
be careful
Truex.
because you run the risk. And look what happened. Martin Truex was like on the brakes, he didn't know, and boom, plowed into him, and really caused a lot of damage to both cars.
All right, Johan, why don't you take us through the stages?
Well, stage 1 was Joey Logano won, and how he won was Michael McDowell was leading, and Joey Logano was in second, so he passed Michael McDowell for the stage win. So I was saying, this is Joey's revenge after what happened in Daytona.
Which was what?
I really don't want to say because Gio's gonna get upset.
Okay.
It was basically a last lap crash.
That's true. Okay.
And then stage number 2 was Kyle Busch and the M&M's mixed Toyota Camry.
Yeah, Kyle Busch did pretty good. And something I realized, which you'll figure out when we get to the winner of the race, the three boys had their driver win a stage. Gio's driver won stage 1, my driver won stage 2,
and Chase Elliott won the race. Let's go. First one of the season.
And he only led the last 5 laps when they were brought down because the rain was too much.
Wet. Like everybody was saying, Erica Stepp, I watched his video. He was saying it was a good idea that NASCAR called the race. It was a good idea. Everybody was saying
a lot of the drivers
except
agreed
for Mom
All
and
right.
Gio.
Let me speak before you throw me under the bus and make me look like a bad person. Some of you who listen to the podcast and have been here for quite a while may know I'm not a Chase Elliott fan. I don't enjoy watching him on the track. I do like to see a little bit of conversation, or a little bit of action, between some drivers and Chase. But I'm not a fan of his.
Backstory.
Now I will pick him up. I will choose Chase Elliott over Austin Dillon and Cole Custer anytime. But still, I'm not a Chase Elliott fan. Anyway, I was not happy with the way the race finished. Not because I don't like Chase Elliott. It was rather because the fact that NASCAR calls the race for too much rain while having a race in rain. And there were points in the race where the rain was even worse than when it got to near the end of the race.
So NASCAR realized it was really unsafe.
Well, I think they should have
decided.
They should have decided earlier when Martin Truex Jr.
They realized
got
a little
rammed
too late.
into.
That's the thing. I don't
like
mind
call
them.
a race,
I don't
wait for
mind
the
them.
rain to calm
You're all
down, then
just
keep
bitter.
going.
No. I'm not
because
bitter.
Chase Elliott,
No,
who I
I'm
had picked
not.
to win,
I'm not.
was leading
I'm
when they
not.
decided
I
to
don't
call
have
it.
a
Okay,
problem
Dad,
with the
whatever.
fact that
Whatever you say.
I don't care for these race picks. I just want to see the drivers. Yes, it's nice to win, but who cares about this race picks? You want to see drivers that you like to win. I don't care that dad got points and I really didn't. I got to see my favorite driver win. And quick backstory why Gio doesn't like Chase Elliott. Bristol. Yeah,
Yes, Chase and Joey
collided in
All
Brad.
right,
and
let's get back to Mom. Or Sebastian, or Mom, and then
That's not why I
Sebastian.
don't
Mom,
like him, but okay.
what are your thoughts on the end of the race?
Okay, so my thoughts on the end of the race are similar to what Gio was saying. I don't care that Elliott won. My problem, or Chase Elliott won. My problem with it is that there were parts of the race where it was raining really, really bad. And those crashes that we mentioned earlier were because the rain was so heavy. And why didn't NASCAR stop it then? Why didn't they red flag it? I was very excited for this race because it was a new track for NASCAR and I really wanted to see it and enjoy it. It would have been great had it not rained, but it did rain. And I know that these cars can run in the rain, but there's a difference between rain and then a torrential downpour. And there were parts where it was a torrential downpour, just like at the end. And NASCAR decided not to, they didn't stop it when it was really bad. Like the drivers could not see towards the middle of the race when it was so bad. They could have stopped it and waited, or, it just did not seem fair. And it has nothing to do with Chase Elliott. It has to do with the fact that there were drivers who wrecked out because the conditions were so bad. And then they decided to just say, hey, towards the end of the race, let's just stop it because conditions are bad. And
could it have been possible that they were hoping that the conditions were going to get better, and they rolled the dice to try and get in at least halfway, because a race is official when it's halfway, and then they realized, you know what, it's still not getting better. And when they had another wreck, and I think it was the Kyle Busch near miss, where his car kind of locked up and he barely missed hitting two people and split. And then there was another wreck that
that was
happened.
Kurt Busch.
that was Kurt Busch.
Was
Yeah.
it Kurt Busch? Sorry.
Kurt Busch. And he went into the gravel
Yes.
and then the grass and all of that.
And then after that, and there was another incident, I think NASCAR just said, okay, enough.
And you
is
want to
enough.
know?
But I think that they were kind of still like weighing their options and playing around with it
and
because
they realized, you know what?
but-
the weather's not
but
going
I
to
don't
turn
think,
better.
but that's the thing. I think it's such a waste of a good race. Like, for example, because there were all these wrecks, they decided to do restarts with single file instead of double, right? Well, now you're lining up all these cars on this giant track, and it makes it harder for these cars in the rain
100%
advance.
hear you.
And
But what could NASCAR have done different in that situation?
I think they should have, when it started raining really bad, I think they should have
Called
held
the
off.
race
But
and
again,
wait.
They had already made the decision to roll the dice to try and make it work. So at the time when they brought the cars in, what could have NASCAR done different?
When they
Waited
brought
just
them
a
in at
little
the
bit.
When
end?
they brought them in at the
No,
end.
I'm not talking about bringing them in at
Well,
the
you
end.
can't
I'm talking
go
about
back
that they
at that
should,
moment in time.
Well, I think
After
they should have
the
waited.
decision was
No,
already made.
Here's the weird thing.
Hold on,
Here's the
Gio.
weird thing. After
They always make these decisions to sometimes they look at the weather and they roll the dice and they say, we're going to try and keep this going. And then they assess the situation and they say, you know what? We're not going to be able to get it in. We got to push this race till tomorrow, or we try to get it in. And they probably looked at the weather. They said, we got rain tires. Maybe we can make it work. And they made the decision and it didn't work out. And they made the right decision at that. Because the thing is, I totally get what you're saying. But what I don't understand and I don't agree with is that you're upset that NASCAR made the call then. Why didn't they make it before? They can't go back in time. Like the fact that they called the race when they did and Chase won it, it is what it is. They, at that point in time, the only decision was call the race or wait until the conditions
Tony,
are better.
I get
to
that
put
you
the cars
can't go
on.
back in the past. It's not about going back in the past. I'm not asking you to rewind the clock for NASCAR. What I'm saying is that, and I'm not saying that NASCAR's decision to stop the race when they did was wrong. All I'm saying is they should have looked at these things prior to that, to all of these cars running and wrecking during this time.
They did. They assessed it as it happened. And they made the decision to try to roll the dice to see if it could work its way out. It wasn't the right decision, clearly, because more cars got in wrecks and stuff. But at least they tried. Had they just ended the race then and flipped it to the following day, you know, maybe the conditions would never have improved. We probably would not have been able to watch the race because we would all been, I think you guys were still in school and we had work and stuff. They tried to make it happen. I at least give them credit for trying to make it happen, and the weather's out of their hands. They did the best that they could. So,
And you know who Mother Nature's favorite driver is? The number 9 of Chase Elliott.
yes, this is the second rain type race that he ended up winning. All right, last remarks on this, and then we'll move on to the Coca Cola 600.
Honestly, with the ending, I really, for me, it could have gone either way. Like, I really don't. It's cool that Chase Elliott won, but to be honest, the thing I'm wondering is who in NASCAR really does not like me, because for some reason I've had the worst luck. I need to find out who's intentionally targeting my driver.
I honestly think
I
it's
get
the
10 points
opposite,
this season.
Sebastian. I think what it is that you don't like the drivers that you pick, because for some reason, every time you pick a driver, the guy could have been top 5 the week before, and then somehow he finishes outside the top 15, usually outside the top 20. I don't understand, because we're going to see that trend continue. All right. So Johan, why don't you take us through the top 5 finishers of the race?
Well, the top 5 finishers of COTA were AJ Allmendinger in 5th, Ross Chastain in 4th, Joey Logano in 3rd, Kyle Larson in second, and Chase Elliott in first.
All right. Karen, real quick, why don't you run down all of our race picks and where they finished for those of us that made those picks this past 2 weeks?
Okay, well, as we heard several times, Chase Elliott came in first, and that's who Tony picked. I picked Kurt Busch, and he finished 27th. I thought he was going to do much better than that. But again, the rain, the weather conditions didn't help. Sebastian picked Brad Keselowski, who finished in 19th. Giovanni had Joey Logano, and he finished in third. And Johan picked Christopher Bell, who we heard earlier got in a wreck, so he finished 38th.
Well then, let's move on to the Coca Cola 600, which was, I don't know, at least for me, it kind of felt like a bit of a lackluster race. There were some entertaining parts, but for most of the part, it was really just a Hendricks show. Again.
I really don't care. Hendricks is the best team. Better than Petty Enterprises.
Well, we can talk about
I
the
always have
reason
been
why you can say that now.
I always have been a Hendricks fan.
Yes, we know, Mr. Jimmy Johnson fan club over there. Well, it was, again, Memorial Day weekend, right? Part of the biggest day in motorsports, 1,100 miles of racing. We had watched the Indy 500, and who had won that race?
Elio Castroneves.
Yes.
He got kicked off of Penske.
Was he kicked off or did he leave?
He was kicked off and then joined a team that I think wasn't winning that much. And they said, "Can you get us a win?" And he went and got
he delivered the biggest win in open wheel racing for them. So, the resident Penske fan club over here wants to chime in real quick about that.
So before we move on to the Coca-Cola 600, I just wanted to clear up. Elio was not kicked. His contract has ended, and he just didn't reassign.
Right now,
he didn't
Penske.
He didn't resign with them.
He didn't resign with them, and then ended up joining this other team, and it clearly paid off. I mean, Penske
it was
a good
his.
team, but
How many wins?
He went on to win his fourth Indy 500.
That's
yeah,
wild. And the first since when?
2009.
Wow. So won an entire decade and still had enough to win. So anyway, we jump into the second part of the Memorial Day weekend racing, which again is the Coca-Cola 600. We had actually two Grand Marshals, Jay Leno and Kevin Eubanks. And actually we forgot to mention in the COTA race, it was one of Mom's all-time favorite actors. All right. It was Matthew McConaughey. And he was the Grand Marshal. I don't do a Jay Leno or a Kevin Eubanks, but we all know who those guys are. They were the Grand Marshals at the Coca-Cola 600.
Jay Leno's that one guy from
The Tonight Show.
I was going to say the Mickey show that Johan used to watch.
Mickey and the Road.
Oh, yeah. He does the voice. He does the voice of the announcer.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Johan would always watch it, and I would just hear, and I was like, is that Jay Leno?
That's so funny. Well,
that doesn't sound like him for me.
So we kind of alluded to it. It was not as action-packed in the sense there was a lot of passing. There were a lot of different lead changes. And honestly, it was because one driver just literally dominated the entire race.
Kyle Larson won all 4 stages. And then the last driver who did that was Kyle Busch in 2018. So that means the last 2 drivers that won all 4 stages with the dub have Kyle in their name.
And also, just to put into perspective, remember there were 400 laps. Of those laps, Johan, how many did Kyle Larson actually lead?
Kyle Larson led 327 laps out of 400. That was like Truex's performance in 2016. But I don't remember how many laps he led, but Larson practically led the whole race.
Yeah, from start to finish. There was definitely some passing. One of our favorite drivers, unfortunately, got sent to the back because he had to come in unscheduled pit, which kind of also, because Kyle Larson was so dominant and had lapped so many cars so quickly, this driver, Danny Suarez, was basically locked down, 2 laps down, and not sure if he ever made one of those laps back, but he ended up, of the lapped cars, finishing
Yeah, he was the first laps car down. He finished in 15th, but he again was 2 laps down, and then everybody behind him was more, 2 or more. So yeah, it was really hard to get a lap back.
Yeah, it was, again, because Kyle Larson just was so dominating and actually won it. Now, was this his first 600 win?
Yes, and his first crown jewel win.
And what was the stat that they like to talk a lot about Kyle Larson, that he's
never won a race that's 400 miles like above.
There's something else.
Well, he comes in second.
Yeah,
he comes
and
in
doesn't
second
win.
a lot.
So it's that whole like always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah,
except for this week.
And I actually was counting on that, because the last few years it seems like you had a dominant driver who would dominate a lot of laps, and then late in the race it became a fuel mileage thing and pit strategy and all of that, and you would have a guy who maybe wasn't as dominant all of a sudden up in the front and winning. And I thought for sure that was going to happen with Kyle Larson, but he just took it all the way and he finished the job. Thankfully, because of the 18, we didn't have another 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes. Thank you, Kyle Busch, and I do expect thank yous from the non-Hendrick fans here.
Thank you. You know, it's funny because the times that Hendrick are the most dominant, it seems like Kyle Busch and Joey Logano are the ones to always bug them.
Well, where was Joey Logano today, Mr. Penske?
Well, that is why it was Kyle today. Don't worry about Joey. Joey's going to come for you guys next time, all right? So keep an eye on Joey.
I'm with Team Hendricks over here, and they have a bunch of championships. So you can either join the Hendrick train that is the greatest team of all time.
I'd take my chances with Joe Gibbs and Penske.
Plus, if you take away Jimmy Johnson's 7 championships, how many championships do you guys have compared to the rest?
I actually don't know. You got Chase.
Well, right now on the team, they only have 1. Besides Jimmy Johnson.
You sound like a bunch of rich guys arguing over whose yacht is bigger.
This is my golden yacht that sank to the bottom of the ocean instantly.
They're all great teams. They all have a lot of
Hendricks
championships.
Is the best.
Hendrick is obvious. You can say that because why? Why do we have to hear this every week from this boy?
You got
because
the
Jimmy
greatest
Johnson,
driver of all time.
Guys, it's a record that just happened. Did you not pay attention?
And
what was
Petty
the record?
Enterprises
1, 2, 3, 4.
had 268 wins. But now Hendricks, because of that Coke 600 win, has the most wins out of a NASCAR stock car team.
Yep, 260.
Penske's not near them. And Joe Gibbs only has 190. So you got to give credit to Hendricks.
Again, another rich guy arguing over the size of his yacht. So the fact of the matter is, yes, Hendrick was very dominant. They are really set well for the future because all their drivers are super young and already winning championships. And
super young and talented.
Super young and talented. But again, if it wasn't for Kyle Busch, they probably would have had another 1, 2, 3, 4, because 4 out of the top 5 were actually Hendrick. So Johan, why don't you take us through the top 5 finishers for this year's Coca Cola 600?
The top 5 finishers were: in 5th, Alex Bowman; in 4th, William Byron; in 3rd, Kyle Busch; in 2nd, Chase Elliott; and in 1st, Kyle Larson. And 4 of those guys are Hendricks.
Yes,
all the Hendricks are in the top 10. 5.
Yes, good
but
for
you guys didn't get a 1, 2, 3, 4 because of a 3rd place.
They got
Kyle
that 2
Busch.
weeks ago.
Kyle Busch was not as dominant as Hendricks.
Let's go,
And
bro.
All right, I'm
Let's
just going
go.
to say, I'm sorry. I'm just
Who
going to
has
say,
more
Dad
career
always
wins?
goes for the winning side. If he was in the middle of a war and his team is losing, at the end of it, he would completely dip, put on the other armor, and go over to the other side and start celebrating like the guy who photobombed that one picture of a volleyball championship.
Just because my name is Arnold does not mean my first name is Benedict, okay? I'm not Benedict Arnold here. I will say...
He's not the only traitor in history of film.
All I'll say is that, no, I like to see greatness, and I do enjoy seeing great teams win. So anyway.
Like Hendrick
Mom,
Motorsports.
Why don't you take us through our race picks for this week?
Well, like we said, Kyle Larson dominated the race and he came in first, and that was my pick. So yay me. Tony picked Denny Hamlin and he came in 7th. Sebastian picked Martin Truex Jr. And once again, was out of the top 10, so no points for Sebastian.
See, again, we just talked about this. What are you doing?
Someone is targeting me at NASCAR.
No, I
I need to go John Wick on this
I
and
am
find out
actually-
who's doing this.
I'm nervous about, we should just let him go first this week just to see. He'll have pick of the litter. And if that guy finishes out of the top 25, we may have to cancel your race picks for the rest of the year.
That's actually not a bad idea. We should, because Martin Truex Jr. finished 29th.
Yeah,
Can
let's
I-
do it. I actually want
Wait,
to do
can
it.
I actually pick first? Because it's
No,
I want to see
All right.
Sebastian
All
pick
right.
first.
Giovanni picked Daniel Suarez, who didn't do too bad. He finished 15th.
Yeah.
Disappointing.
So-
It is disappointing
It
that
is
he wasn't in the
disappointing.
top 10 and he didn't get you points. But at the end of the day, at one point, he was in the 30s because he was running well. Like, he actually qualified in the top 10. I think he was 7th or 8th. Stayed up there. Actually passed a car or two, was up in the top 10, and then had to come in for an unscheduled pit stop. And when it was so early and Kyle Larson was so dominant, it just threw him back. And then all of a sudden he was 2 laps down and he spent the entire day working his way up. Why was this disappointing? Because he had probably one of the top pep talks at the beginning of the race when he had probably the best hype man there is in the business, Pitbull, who is a co-owner of Trackhouse Racing, rallying the team and getting them all excited about how they were doing really well and exceeding expectations. And everybody was pumped
as the
up.
team called it, the Pitbull stop.
Yes, the Pitbull stop. Did you just make that up or did that come from?
No, that was from NASCAR.
That was from NASCAR. Okay.
And then Johan picked Chase Elliott, who finished in 2nd.
Yeah, and he was the only other driver that had anything besides Kyle Busch for Kyle Larson. So yeah, it was the longest race of the year. But you know what? We actually stayed up. We watched the whole thing. It was 4 hours, I think, and after it was all said and done, part of the Indy 500 weekend. I'm hoping that next year, maybe we'll see somebody's favorite driver try the double. I think it was I think it's been like 10 years, right? Since a driver has tried to race the Indy and the Coca Cola 600.
Has anyone ever won both?
No, the best performance of any driver. Take a wild guess who it was.
Marcos Ambrose.
Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart.
What?
He finished something like 6th in one race, and he finished 3rd in the other race. And I can't remember which one is which, but the race, I think it was the Coca Cola 600. I know that race, he ended up having to start in the back because of his trip from Indianapolis to Charlotte for that race that year. He was late and missed the driver meeting. And because of that, NASCAR penalized him and said, you need to start from the back. And even still, he drove through the field and ended up giving his team a top 5. So yes, Tony Stewart was the only driver to ever come close. Again, that's doing it in the same day. So I'd like to see Jimmy Johnson. And I actually thought this year he was going to try and do it, but let him enjoy his first year of retirement. Maybe he'll get into it, and maybe next year he can pull it off.
Well, he was there, but as a broadcaster.
That's right. I forgot about
with
that.
Steve Letard.
And what other NASCAR driver?
Danica Patrick.
Danica Patrick. Sebastian, where are we going next week?
Next week, we are doing another road course. We're going to Sonoma Raceway for the Toyota Save Mart 350. And maybe, hopefully, on this road course, things can actually turn around for me, please.
Well, it is a special day for me that day also.
What's so special about June 6th?
It's my birthday.
Oh, that's right. You're 9. All right. Very exciting. Well, I think
I'm going to be number 9.
I think you're going to be number 9. So let's see. Maybe you get to pick them on your birthday. But
He can. He chose him last week.
That's what
lol.
got me
All
mad.
right. Well, let's see. Let's see who Mom is going to pick this week, because last time we had a road course, she gifted me that driver. What?
Am I going to go first? You guys said
Come on, I want to
No,
see him
not
go
this
first.
week.
I
You
wanna
want to
go-
go first?
He's going to pick
Let
Denny
him.
Hamlin
Yeah.
and then
All right.
turn 2.
I
first
bequeath my
lap.
first place to him.
Wait. Imagine Sebastian, whoever
Don't
he
say
picks,
anything.
gets hit by a shoe.
That would be horrible.
It's the Let's Go Racing Family Picks of the Week.
All right, we're going to change it up. Last second change here. We're going to test fate. Sebastian seems to have the worst luck. Every time he picks a driver, that driver has probably one of the worst performances of the week. So we're going to give him pick of the litter. Sebastian, who are you picking to win the Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma?
All right. So, yeah, I'm going to be tempting some fate here. This guy has a top 5 finish in both races that we reviewed this week, and he does really good on road courses. So let's see if Chase Elliott can actually do something, get me points, or is he going to suffer from my curse?
Please don't
All
have
right,
me curse.
Chase Elliott. Let's hope he doesn't blow a tire and end up in last place. Karen, you're actually leading. Who are you picking this week to win in Sonoma?
Okay, I was going to choose Chase Elliott to see if he's proven that he is the king of the race courses. But since Joe Sebastian took him, I'm going to go with another driver who has won the last 2 years, and it pains me to always choose him. But again, I do this for points, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going with the number 19
No!
of Martin Truex Jr.
You gotta be kidding me.
Martin Truex Jr. All right. I'm going next. I'm going to go with the guy that I think is going to bring some Miami heat to California. I'm going with Danny Suarez in the number 99.
All right, Daniel Suarez. That leaves us with Johan. Who are you going to pick?
I'm gonna pick the guy who I picked for the Grand Prix, but he ended up wrecking. But I'm gonna give him a second chance. Let's go Christopher Bell and get his second career win.
All right, Christopher Bell for Johan and Gio.
All right, I've kind of been doing this on and off, and it's kind of getting repetitive, but it seems to be paying off, and I think I might be able to pull out some points this week. Hopefully I can get something good. So put me down for the number 22, Joey Logano.
Those are our race picks for this week at Sonoma.
I'm genuinely surprised nobody went for Denny Hamlin.
I'm surprised nobody went for Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch's dog.
Denny Hamlin, like when
Christopher
I was
Bell
first
is-
thinking about it, I was thinking Denny Hamlin, but then you guys said, you know what? You guys decided to give me the thing, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with
Oh
Chase
my God.
Elliott.
Imagine Chase Elliott.
And Elliott doesn't.
Wait,
No, guys.
Last lap,
I was
Elliott
originally going to
spun
go with
around.
Denny Hamlin, but you guys said that you're going to give me the first pick to see if I could tempt fate and break my curse, so I decided to go with Chase Elliott. But Denny was my first
one.
pick.
Was like
Christopher Bell.
like the kid who gets the first present on Christmas. Oh,
Guys, Christopher Bell is my back pocket card for road courses. I've seen he can get it done at road courses.
So there you go. Looking forward to another race weekend. With that, Giovanni, why don't you take us out?
thank you so much for listening on in. Please consider subscribing, checking out all of our socials, and downloading our podcast episodes. Anyway, Let's Go Racing Family out.